I'm certainly not well educated enough to say exactly what has led to the dramatic reduction in global testosterone levels, be it plastics, sugars, antibiotics, processed chemicals, or whatever else. However, my guest today is a hormone replacement expert, so we will find out together. Welcome to the Just Dumb Enough podcast, a show that acknowledges no one is always an expert by dispelling misconceptions with real experts. I'm your host as always, Colton Petrie. My guest today is Susie Bell. Susie has over 3 decades of experience helping patients, many of whom struggle to keep their natural hormones in check as the years go on. For women, it's widely acknowledged to be an issue around that menopause area, but for men, it can happen in your late teens. And that is a shock, but so are many of the messages you'll actually hear explained when we give this topic room to explain itself.
We discovered that my husband's testosterone was extremely low. In fact, it was lower than mine. It was 12. Mine was 46.
Also, thank you so much to everyone in Japan who made that first international tour such an absolute blast. I have never felt 16 days go by so quickly, and I feel like I could have spent another 100 days without issue. Hopefully I get to do even more of those big tours in the coming months and years. Let's fix our imbalances without shame. Welcome to the show, Susie Bell.
Hi, thank you so much, Colton. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I am so excited to have you on the show. Why don't you introduce yourself a bit for the audience?
Oh, thank you. I am Susie Bell. I am a nurse practitioner. I've been in practice for 10 years as a practitioner and 33 years total as a nurse. Much of my career has been spent in hormone replacement for both men and women. And I got into the hormone replacement aspect of things after my divorce. And after my divorce, we discovered that my husband's testosterone was extremely low. In fact, it was lower than mine. It was 12. Mine was 46. And I said, who's the man in the relationship? But honestly, I realized the importance of testosterone and what a game changer it is for both men and women. And so as a nurse practitioner, I developed my own and created my own practice in 2019 and discovered that there are compounding pharmacies where we can go about prescribing without utilizing insurance and make it more accessible to people who want it. And also I have some secrets on getting labs done without insurance as well. So it's just exciting. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I look forward to getting into all of that because there's a lot of information in this, but I know we have to break it down. So I'm
Right.
you struggling to keep my questions inside. But what brought you into this? Was it, just working with your ex-husband where you're like, oh, holy crap, this is really bad, that brought you into working with hormones?
Yeah, and I think it was during our marriage, I did not realize that that was part of the problem. In 1998, with the whole opioid crisis, he was a back pain patient, and opioids are known to destroy and limit testosterone levels. And so the reason that his testosterone levels were so low was probably because of the opioid use. But of course, back then they were prescribed just like candy and the big, all of that, the big pharma. And so, of course, we didn't know the long-term effects of that. And after the divorce, he explained to me what was going on. And when he started testosterone, of course, I had been to the gym and I'd done a lot of bodybuilding over the years. And I thought, oh, that's naughty. That's anabolics. That's what these bodybuilder dudes use. That's like naughty stuff. You don't do that. And so even as a nurse and a nurse practitioner at that time, I didn't really understand the importance of testosterone or the place that it had. And I was offered a position at an anti-aging clinic, and I was a little skeptical about it. And when I began to learn about supplementation and the need for it, and what happens to our bodies physiologically as we age, and finding that testosterone levels for even younger men now are dropping very rapidly at an early age. I saw the change in people's lives, and it was just incredible. Look, for both men and women. But young men in their 30s, even in their late 20s, are having low testosterone. And of course, the symptoms are decreased mental acuity. Men say, I don't have the mental capacity I once did. I don't have the focus to detail. I'm gaining belly fat. I'm exhausted. My libido's gone. My muscle is just diminishing. So those are some of the side effects of low testosterone, and people don't know.
Well, and we talk about like having a low number, like 12 and 46 are extremely low numbers for you're like,
Yes.
these are
Yeah.
super low. We have a guy in the network that was talking to us, and he had said, like, yeah, he's got low testosterone because he's like breaching 30 and it's 260.
Yeah. And that is low. That is low. But as you know, and that's a really good point that you bring up with that number, because most people never really drop below around the 250, 240 mark. Well, all of the labs, their acceptable levels are typically between 250 and 900. So that's a huge variation. And the reason that is done is because insurance does not want to pay for this. They view it as it's cosmetic, or it's it's an optional thing. It's not necessary. It's not a medical necessity. And so that is how insurance gets away with saying, well, you're within range. Well, you're within this range, but 250 to 900 is a huge range. So if you could be more optimal at the 900, like you were when you were 21, you'd be feeling amazing. But then they have you right there. And that's where I come in with my business, and there are a lot of people that have my business model. You just need to find them. But we don't need to use insurance. So we don't need to say, hey, you don't qualify, because if you have the symptoms and we have the labs, we are able to safely prescribe and bring people to optimal levels.
Well, and it seems crazy to set such a large range because,
It
like, I
is.
mean, he even showed me his labs because I'm like, oh, let me see it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, it shows that he's low because it shows like a green bar between like
Mm-hmm.
400 and 900. And he's like, 140 points
Yeah.
below that. And he's like, yeah, my insurance straight up
Nope.
won't cover it. And my doctor doesn't recommend it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, this is nuts. Like, why wouldn't they? Because when you're talking about
Right.
like excess body fat,
Yeah.
lethargy, like reduced libido, reduced acuity, like these are things that can kill you.
They do. They really do. There are many men. There are studies that show that there are men who become suicidal when these levels drop, because their body is changing. They have no libido, or as a result, they're having issues with erectile dysfunction in their 30s, and they feel useless. And it's really sad to think and to know that these things occur, all because of something that could easily be replaced. And when you were speaking to this, and you said something about the doctor not wanting to. That is something we see constantly. And the reason being is we are never taught in school how to treat it. We are not taught one day how to treat low testosterone, because they don't want us to learn that. And so unless it's something that we seek out as a specialty, it's something that we're taught to be afraid of, because there are risks with taking testosterone. And one of the risks, as you may know, is increased hemoglobin hematocrit levels. That's basically an increased blood volume. Well, here's the really easy trick for it. As providers, as we monitor it, if hemoglobin hematocrit levels increase, and we're monitoring every 6 months, the solution to that is go donate blood. Oh my gosh, you make the world a better place too. So you create more red blood cells, being monitored, it's an easy fix. Go donate blood. So something like that. And then we monitor PSA levels, because testosterone does not cause prostate cancer, but it will grow a prostate cancer if it's there. So we monitor PSA levels, and that way we know it's safe to begin the testosterone. So as a provider, we're not taught these things because the system has everything rigged up so that no one can get the help that they need. And that it's crazy. I could
Yeah.
tell you stories. It's crazy.
Well, and that's amazing that that's like, of course, like prostate cancer is a very serious risk. Although
Mhm.
I talked to somebody on the show that like deals with prostate cancer, and they had said like 1/3 of people won't
Yeah.
even know they had it. Like
Right.
they'll die from an unrelated cause, and they'll just happenstance find like, oh yeah, he had prostate cancer, and you're like, oh, I
Yeah.
never knew, and you're like, neither did he.
Yeah, because it doesn't metastasize anywhere. It stays right there, and a lot of men, I've always said that the things that give us our youth, like for women, our beautiful breasts in our youth, and for men, they don't even know that their prostate gives them youth, but when it's not enlarged, you don't have the erectile dysfunction issues. So I always say that the things that give us our youthfulness are the very things that will try to kill us later in life. We get breast cancer, men get prostate cancer. It's just the way it is, but it's true, but we just have to monitor those things and ensure that we are going about it safely, and there are very safe ways to go about doing this. I find the benefits of testosterone to be much greater and much safer than the risks of not taking it, and that is my stance on it.
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking is like the contraindication of like, great,
Mhm.
don't take it when you have prostate cancer and
Right.
monitor your blood levels. That's a
Right.
pretty minor inconvenience compared to people who are like massively gaining weight and developing
Yeah.
diabetes and developing unhealthy lifestyle habits, and they stop
Yeah.
working. Like, okay, well, I'll go donate blood. Like, what's the big deal?
Exactly. It's incredible. And I think that what one of the things that gives it a bad rap and scary is like I said, when I was in bodybuilding, the men that abused it. Anything can be abused. Opioids are great for post-surgical pain, but they can also be abused. Testosterone is great for supplementation and bringing patients back in range. It can also be abused. I typically prescribe 200 milligrams a week. Technically, I never really need to increase it. I never prescribe above 300 milligrams. It's never necessary. And then a lot of bodybuilders are not getting their testosterone in a safe from a safe place. They're doing it illegally. They don't even know what they're taking half the time. And some of these guys are injecting 1,000 milligrams a week. So yeah, we've got both sides of it, but we can't ever assume that testosterone replacement is abuse. And even as a practitioner, I had a hard time seeing that because I was never educated about it. They will not educate us.
Yeah. Well, and it's very different. We hear like TRT for testosterone
Mm-hmm.
replacement therapies, and it's very professional. And you would never connect it, I think, as like the lay
Mm-hmm.
person to be like, oh, this is the same steroid that we talk
Yes.
about like major bodybuilders using. Like it's literally the
Yes.
same thing, just in way different doses.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And when we get it from a safe place, like these compounding pharmacies, they are able to compound safely and they're regulated by the FDA. They're safely able to compound the testosterone. They usually will use cottonseed oil or grapeseed oil. And big pharma uses other type of oils. And so as the compounding pharmacy, they just use a different oil per se. And that way they're able to create it where the chemical makeup of it is exactly the same, but they're able to offer it at a price that's affordable instead of going, big pharma through your pharmacy, your regular Walgreens, Walmart pharmacy. So it's the whole setup of it is actually a beautiful thing when people learn about it and really understand options that are available to them.
Well, and seeing this cost spectrum, because I know there's like a quick Google search told me a lot that I didn't know about like testosterone, where I'm like, okay, this is
Yeah.
wild because it's like, hey, buy this from Mexico for
Uh,
$50. It is, 3 months of doses. And like, I'm like, you don't even know what's in this.
you
Like
do
this,
not know what's in
I'm like,
it.
this is nuts. But I also like,
Yeah.
okay, $50 to somebody who's like, well, I want to get super ripped. Like
Yeah.
$50 is nothing in supplements
Yeah.
compared to like, you go to the doctor and they're like, well, your insurance won't cover it. It's going to be $2,000 a month. And
Right.
and you're like, oh, dear God, like,
Yeah.
what is
Exactly.
that?
Exactly. And it's one of those things to just discourage people from wanting to use it. Or like you said, for some of these people, and particularly young people that don't know very much and they see that and then they want to get big, they go that route, which is really scary. So it scares the people that qualify for it, and it scares the young guys into doing things that, you know, create abscesses, and people have died over injecting things that they don't even know what's in it. Um, can I speak to infertility as well? It
Yeah,
just popped
please.
in my head.
No, please
So
do.
one of the big things that men ask me all the time, especially younger men in their 30s who want families, they say to me, is this going to make me infertile? So that is an incredible question. So what I will usually do, it can in the sense that it will slow down, you know, sperm production, stuff like that. So one of the options that men have is that they can take HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin hormone, along with the testosterone replacement. And we usually do like 500 units, which is just a small amount injected into the belly twice a week. And what that does is it actually helps keep the sperm production going so it doesn't shut it down. And then it actually prevents testicular atrophy. So that's one of the things that we can do along with it so that people don't lose their fertility. And then the other thing that I do is we do something called an estrogen blocker, which is anastrozole. And that anastrozole, just half a tablet twice a week, will help prevent the side effect of gynecomastia. Do you know what that is?
I do, but you should definitely
You do.
explain it.
you know, the gym term for it, you know, and I won't say it, but it prevents that from happening. And so again, it's monitoring the labs and making sure, because we monitor estradiol levels when we do testosterone to make sure that we're not giving too much. If the dose is too high, it can convert over into estradiol, and so then we know we either need to bring the dose down or increase the anastrozole. So it's like this incredible process that is just um, individualized for each person. But I love treating men because men with testosterone replacement, it is so simple. It is so simple. You give a man testosterone. If he doesn't want his testicles to shrink, you give him HCG. If he wants to have children, continue to have children, you give him HCG. You block the estradiol, they're golden. Menopause is a whole different ballgame. We are so hard to treat. It's crazy. Our hormones, it's tough. But men, it is such a simple fix. And I wish and hope that more men were understanding and not so afraid and not scared so much by primary care providers or urologists to the benefits of this. It is just a beautiful thing. I love it.
Yeah. Well, and this like led me right into stuff I wanted to ask because I'm
Yeah.
like, two things that I seem to be seeing, at the same time is like an increase of people needing testosterone
Mm-hmm.
therapy and a decrease in birth rates. And it's like,
Interesting.
does
Yeah.
this make it worse especially if people are like off brand treating themselves, even if they're like, the thing you bought is testosterone, if you're
Yeah.
using it without any advice, like you're also
Yes.
decreasing your fertility.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things along that is these men that use testosterone off brand or do it on their own, they will use it and they don't. One of the questions I have is, do I have to use testosterone the rest of my life if I start it? And the answer is no. If men decide that they want to go off of it, the recommendation is that HCG to come off of it and help to increase their levels as they're coming off it. If they do not do that, it will shut down their production and it can cause infertility. So what you said is huge and it's super important because it's the process of coming off of the testosterone, or I know in the gym bros call it cycling off. Well, when you're doing TRT, you never have to cycle off of it. But if you choose not to take it anymore, there is a process to make sure that that HCG is in your system to not shut down that production. But you are 100% correct that testosterone used improperly can lead to infertility without question.
Well, and it's a lot of this treatment, like,
Yep.
people that don't know HCG as a thing, where you're
Right.
like, oh, why would I take that? Because you look online and there are tons of supplements that are like Estro Redux and I forget the other one. It's dim, something like that. Um, that they're like, oh, this helps to reduce free estrogen in your body, and I'm like, does it? Does it?
I learned a lot listening to the gym bros because it was right after that that I started prescribing. And it was so funny to listen to them all talk about their cycles and what they were doing. And I think, dear Lord, it's scary what people do to their bodies. It's frightening. And I can't imagine like anyone taking that risk from a legal standpoint either. But I know people do, just the desire to be big, the desire to be fit, but it's so easy to quote unquote follow the rules and have it prescribed appropriately and have the results that are within reason, and just to restore people back to what they once were and how they once felt. Because I think that as you age and those testosterone levels drop, people remember how they felt when they were 18, 20, 21, vibrant. And in just 10 years to think, gosh, I feel like an old man. And testosterone levels, to speak to what you asked too, testosterone levels are dropping younger. And I think that the reason being is because of the environment that we live in, the pesticides, the insecticides, all the free radicals. I know as a 55-year-old woman, I used to feed my children chicken breasts from Costco that were like this big because they were antibiotic fed. And we're like, cool, great. I can feed my whole family with this one breast, and then that doesn't happen anymore. There are guidelines, but our children, my boys, all their testosterone levels are low, all of them. And it's just devastating to see that these young guys have the testosterone levels of what 50-year-old men did 20 years ago. And so, yeah, I think it's your mom's fault, my fault.
Well, and it is like the world, like we said, this is becoming more popular, and it's because like we keep making mistakes as humans. We don't really understand some of the science we put out there. It's
Right.
like what in the 50s or 40s that we were using like leaded gasoline. And they're
Yes.
like, oh, hey, this is causing a lot of problems in
Right.
people. And you're going to see 20 years before it starts to normalize. The same thing.
And
Like,
lead
oops.
in everything.
Yeah.
Lead paint chips, lead toys, mercury in the thermometers. I mean, yeah, what a crazy world. But definitely, I think definitely our food supply and the things that we deemed acceptable. As I look back at it as a young mother, I had no idea what I was feeding my children, and I had no idea the effect it would have on them. And to have 4 boys and to have all of these boys have like low testosterone, that's pretty significant.
Yeah.
Maybe they just got it from their dad. I don't know.
I say throw it to our sponsor Moink Box, but we're not sponsored. They could, I would, but no, it's one of those that like I could see people really chasing the rainbow kind of a situation with this, especially like becoming the gym bro. Because if you
Right.
have naturally low testosterone
Yeah.
and you start working out, you start feeling a little better. But then
Yeah.
somebody talks you into like, you should take testosterone. And you do, and you starts bringing your levels up. Like that depression starts to ease off, plus the
Yeah.
endorphins. Now you're feeling amazing. And you're like, oh, this
Right.
is what I have to do.
And I'm never stopping without the education of, I need to have this to go along with it. And a lot of these guys end up getting talked into other things too that are around that, the real anabolics and things like that can be devastating. And I've seen a lot of my friends that were bodybuilders on dialysis because of the diuretics and all the different things they would use for their shows and their photo shoots. They would take high amounts of diuretics, and I know many people that are on dialysis to this day because they were doing exactly what you're talking about as young men, just wanting to be big and doing whatever it took to get there.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of prescriptions for Lasix in young people for a reason.
No, exactly.
So, I mean, do we try and get it up to a point and then you like taper down the dosage? Because if we wanted to say like you're 30 and
Mm-hmm.
I need to get you from 260, we'll use our teammate here as an example. We need to get you from 260 to 900. Like, do you just kind
Yeah.
of ramp up hard, or do you just say like you're going to take 200 milligrams every week for, until we see your levels even out?
Yeah. These are actually great questions because this question is, I think it's perfect. The way that I do it is that I understand that as soon as a patient gets a shot, his levels might jump to 1600, and that I am not scared about that. And if we were to draw labs the following day, we would see 1600. And as a normal practitioner, we would also freak out. So we don't do that because our goal is not a number. And I have so many male patients, especially the ones in their 30s, they're like, I want to get to this number. I heard my friends at 3,000. And well, first of all, no lab will even show above 1,500. So it's like, I don't know how your friend got to 3,000, but anyway, but I always tell them, I'm not trying to get you to a certain number, and I don't want your focus to be to get to a certain number. We are focused on improving, the improving your mentation, improving your energy level, improving your libido, improving energy, improving all the decrease in erectile dysfunction. All these are the things we're going to focus on, and so we kind of monitor that. And typically, they feel better right away. They feel better right away. And I have to remind them that it's not a number I'm trying to get them to. It is a state of being that we're trying to get to. And then monitoring any side effects. One of the side effects can be acne. And if they start to have acne, that is an indication that maybe we need to start tapering this down. And so we might taper it down just a little bit, or we might let the acne just kind of ride through, because sometimes it's just like a puberty thing where it's like, okay, we get past this. But usually we start at 200 and we usually keep it there, and it's usually enough. And if I find patients that are dropping later in the week where they don't, because we do every 7 days an intramuscular injection. If by day 4 they're feeling like they're starting to drop off, we break the shot up and we do half on like Sunday and half on Thursday. And then they ride through it that way. So there are a lot of different things that we can do with the dosing to ensure the outcome, but it's never a number we try to get to. Gym bros are always trying to get to a number. And like I said, I think it was the funniest thing in the world when they would also, oh, I'm at 3,200, man. Oh yeah, I'm at 4,500. And I'm like, the labs don't even register above 1,500, you idiots. But yeah, it's never a number we're trying to get to. And then the purpose of the labs when we redraw them is not to see necessarily where their testosterone levels are, but to make sure their PSA is still okay, that we don't have an increase in prostate, that the hemoglobin hematocrit is okay, that the estradiol is okay. So those are my main focuses. And the testosterone, I will always gauge and tell them, try to wait until 7 days after the shot so that we don't see a 1,500 testosterone. But yeah, that is a great question. That is
Yeah.
a great question.
Well, and some of that I'm sure goes back to like sketchy practices where they're like, yeah, I bought this test on the
Yes.
internet and all I gotta do is pee on it and it tells me what my testosterone levels are. You're like, that's a pregnancy test. Like somebody put a sticker on a pregnancy test.
Probably. For real.
Yeah. Which I mean, it is one of those things, but like it sounds like there is quite a lot to manage here, like to keep in your mind if you're going through this,
Mm-hmm.
that it doesn't sound advisable to do by yourself.
I do
Because
not think anyone should.
yeah, you're like you could do shots once a week, twice a week. You need
Right.
HCG like twice a week. You might need one of
Yep.
these pills, like half of it,
Twice a week.
what do
Yep.
you do?
Yeah. And it really is very simple but it's like anything else, like changing my oil in my car is very simple. But for me, it would be not very simple if I did it myself. But it's very simple for me to drive into Infinity and just say, hey, I need my oil change. It's the same thing. It's like to find a provider that can manage it for you, where all you have to do, you don't have to do the thinking, and you give yourself a shot a week, or then a couple in your belly if you decide to do the HCG, and half a tablet twice a week. And the benefits, outrageous. And then to have your labs drawn twice a year to make sure if I need to go donate blood, I donate blood. But yeah, it's like anything else, just finding the right person. And they are out there. There are more and more practitioners that are becoming interested in this and seeing the need for it. And we'll do it without insurance, because insurance is at every level the very limiting factor. It's very unfortunate that people pay $1,000 a month to have health insurance just to be told, no, we're not drawing these labs. No, we're not going to have this MRI. And in fact, you've probably seen that when patients go to the doctor and they say, I want my testosterone levels drawn. And they say, no, insurance won't cover it, because insurance doesn't want to cover something they know they're not going to treat. So people just never know where they're at.
Yeah.
And so to be able to bypass that insurance and have the autonomy over your own life is pretty remarkable.
Well, and that's really kind of the overarching problem of the US system, right? Is that like you have to have insurance because if you don't,
Mhm.
like you'll go bankrupt.
Right.
You also have to have
Right.
very expensive insurance because otherwise it doesn't really cover anything and you're paying a bunch out of pocket. And even if
Mm-hmm.
you have both of those things, like they still might not want to cover the thing that's actually wrong with you. And so you're like, yeah, I'm paying, $500 a month, but I'm not actually getting any treatment. So you're like, okay, so
Right.
$6,000 a year, and the only thing I need is testosterone treatment, and I'm
Can't
not
get that.
getting an ounce.
Right. Right. Yeah. We could do a whole podcast on health insurance. I think it's the world's biggest scam, and privatized health insurance has gotten so crazy over the last 15 years because they cover less and less and less. And and the cost is higher and higher and higher. And when I need something as a provider, I have to go to a claims manager who has a degree in nothing and is arguing with me over why I need it, and I can't get it, and I get frustrated, and I'm at their mercy, and they're making decisions on patients. They have no medical training whatsoever. That's a scam. And I know that a lot of these claims managers, they get bonused on denying. They get bonused. If they're going to save the insurance company money, they're getting bonused. So they are purposely denying. There is no place in medicine where anyone, in my opinion, should ever be bonused, ever. And if we could take the bonusing out of healthcare all the way around, I think healthcare would improve. And if we would tell these insurance companies they need to get rid of these claims managers and they need to start listening to the providers when we order something, I'm not ordering an MRI because I'm going to get rich on it. I'm ordering it because I need it. And so I could go on all day. I could talk 8 hours straight about healthcare.
Oh yeah. No, that's my hot button issue as like having worked as a paramedic. I see it and
Oh, yeah,
I'm furious because I'm like, first of all, we're
furious.
subsidizing these people. Like we subsidize billions
Yes.
of dollars to a company that's not a nonprofit. Like it's a
Mm-hmm.
for-profit company and the government
Yes.
gives them money to operate. Hold on. Like full stop,
Yep.
time out. Why? Why are we doing?
Scam.
Because I pay for it monthly. Why are you paying for it with my money monthly? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what is that?
Yeah. It's got to be literally burned to the ground and started over
Yep.
because it's so bad. And I deal with it every day. I deal with it every day. But that's why I love my own business, because I do my own business Thursday through Sunday, and I just love it. But the Monday through Wednesday, I still feel like I need to keep my hands as a practitioner in the real meat of everything to understand in order to be able to make changes and still understand where healthcare is going. So I do Monday through Wednesday in a clinic, not doing hormone replacement.
Well, and I think that's a big thing is that like being a part of the system, like you're a part of the system, I was a part of the system, that doesn't mean we agree with it. Lots of us
Nope.
hate it.
Hate it.
But
Yes.
like we're a part of it and unfortunately like we that's just how we have to live.
Yeah. And I think the part of me being a writer, the part that I love, is all the fun letters I get to write to the insurance companies and tell them I will fight for the rights of my patients. When they deny them something, I write these letters. And a lot of times they kind of have to listen because I'm calling them on facts. And I would say, but as providers, we don't always have the time to write letters for every patient. But when I do write my letters, they will listen because they know they're being unethical. And I use the word unethical and vile in my letters. I say, what you are doing to this patient is vile and unethical. And then they like look at it. But we shouldn't have to do that, but
Yeah. Well, that is like the advice I always gave as a medic when they're
mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, they're not going to cover this thing or they don't want to do it." I said, "Just call your insurance and ask for a review hearing." And
Yeah.
they're like, "What is that?" And I said, "Doesn't matter. It'll scare them into doing it."
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
like, because
Great
they'd have to
advice.
show up and justify why they don't do it. And
Right.
that would be super embarrassing because they will lose. So they won't
Right.
like they
No,
won't
that
do it.
is excellent advice. It really, really is, because I don't think a lot of people know that they can do that. They feel very powerless. These people making these decisions have no medical training. And to take them on and be able to say, no, what about this, and this? And they don't even know what you're talking about. And they don't stand a chance, you know?
Yeah. Well, and this all goes back to like, the knowledge part makes me think about people using, you know, testosterone. We'll just say, the
Right.
image of steroid use in general, I think is like the gym bro, right? We've seen it in TV and it's always like an injection in the butt cheek, but you never see like the stomach injection. So is that even right? Like, is the injection gluteal or is it like,
So the gluteal muscle is one of the biggest muscles, so that's the best place. I have seen men though, they've injected themselves right into their hip joint. Like they don't know where
oh,
to inject it. They don't know where to inject it. And there is so much on Google like showing people where to inject. No. If you actually divide your butt cheek, one butt cheek up like this, and this is the upper outer quadrant, you actually inject in the upper outer quadrant. So it's kind of up high. But a lot of these guys put it actually below their gluteal muscle, like right into their butt cheek fat because they don't know where to put it. But there are actually directions, and there are areas of the muscle that it can be put in. It can also be put in the delt. You never want to inject more than 1 cc into your deltoid, and usually that's you don't need any more than 1 cc, but definitely the gluteus is the best place. You can also do it in your thigh, but again, if you do it in the center of your thigh, there's a big blood supply there and you can hit nerves there. And so it needs to be on the lateral aspect of the vastus lateralis. So, injection spots are very important. And most gym bros would not, if they get their education from their buddy and their buddy's putting it in his butt cheek fat, that's where he's going to do it. And I have seen guys at the gym will say, yeah, I gave my injection right here. And I'm like, you gave yourself a goddamn intra-articular injection right into your bursa. You gave yourself a bursal injection. What the hell?
yeah.
Like, so yeah, when they're getting their education from the last guy before him and the last guy before him, and they're getting it all wrong, not only are they using bad stuff, but they're injecting it in the wrong places, which is comical, but not.
Yeah. Well, and I have to imagine, like, number one, your efficacy drop if you're like, yeah, you
Oh,
put it into fat. Like, it's
yes.
not really going to metabolize because that's not how
Right.
fat works.
Right.
But also, like, people who have never given an IM, intramuscular shot,
Yeah.
like, that's a pretty deep needle.
Yeah.
And I could see a lot of people like going subcutaneous because they're like,
Yes.
oh, any deeper and it
Oh,
really hurts. Like, that's my
yeah.
bone. And it's like, it's not your bone. Trust me,
I
it's not your bone.
think I could have, as a young person, especially, I could have never given myself a shot of anything. It took me years to be able to even give myself a shot. And I was already a nurse the first time I even had to give myself a sub-Q injection. And I remember like literally crying and freaking out over having to do it. And it was pathetic, but I don't even know how these guys like brave up to do it themselves. And they must want it that bad.
Well, and especially if you're like blind injection into your own butt cheek. Like, man, you are committed.
You're committed. Exactly. Oh my gosh.
I
Yeah, so
love.
education is a huge part of it too with this. And a lot of times, if I'm not able to be with a patient, then we'll do it on FaceTime and I'll show them how to draw it up. And I'm like, look, for your first injection, I'll usually show it to them in the office, but the first one that they're doing for themselves, I just say, go ahead and FaceTime me. And then, of course, they get their FaceTime all set up and I see their butt cheek. I'm like, no, no, that's not right. Over a little bit, over a little bit. But it's just important to have that teaching in the beginning and, and understand what you're doing to get the best results and to be safe with it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
to know it is something you can do for yourself as long
You
as
can.
you have that guidance.
Exactly.
And hearing that there's like, I mean, assumably, I could think of 6 places right off the bat, right? Like each gluteal muscle, both thighs, both of your upper arms.
Yeah.
Is there any benefit to like moving it around? Do people like
Rotating.
rotate?
Yes. Rotating should be done. Even if you're just going to do it. Yeah. I mean, you can rotate like from the right glute to the however you want to do it. But obviously any area that you have injections done repeatedly, you can develop a little bit of scar tissue. And so it's okay after these injections too to kind of rub that area, and even massages will help to prevent that scar tissue from building up. But yes, that's a great question, or it's a great observation as well, that scar tissue will build up if it's given in the same area every time. But if you do rotate like that, you figure that spot, instead of getting hit once a week, is getting hit once every 6 weeks. That's much better.
Well, and is there any real change like in efficacy,
No,
between like, oh, I put it in my arm, you're like,
no,
great, it works in your arm because it's all
yeah,
muscular. You're like, all
it's
we're doing is trying to get it into your body.
exactly. Yeah, just the same as if you had an IV in your right hand or your left hand. Very same. It's going to deliver the same way and the same efficacy.
So, in working with a lot of these hormone therapies, what do we see on the other side? Are we seeing like an increase in need in treatment in women as well, where we're like, hey,
Oh
like
yeah.
we're seeing estrogen levels fall off really early or skyrocket, or what's the
Yeah,
deal?
we're kind of a little bit different beast. I mean, for us it's like there really is no way to do anything with female hormones. I mean, you just it's all right. So when you get into perimenopause, which can be like 38, 40, and women are starting to have some of these same symptoms like tired, gaining weight, those types of things. We draw hormone levels. We'll usually see progesterone and testosterone are the first things to drop. So one of the things that I like to do before even testosterone is progesterone. Progesterone will help to balance things as we're getting ready to go through menopause. I find, and this is the tough thing for women, I love testosterone. Yes, it will increase. It will increase libido and everything. But 40-year-old women really don't need a libido increase. We're really good there anyway. It's like we're finally feeling good. I have not found very many 40-year-old women that have a problem with libido for real. So if I give them testosterone, the problem with that is they start to retain and they start to actually gain a little bit of weight. And most women don't like that. Some are okay with it. We can always test it out. I usually do cream with women instead of the injection, because just a little tiny bit, like as men will be given 200 milligrams a week, women like 10 to 12 milligrams a week. That's how different our hormones are that way. And so if the testosterone works for women, we go with it. If it's making them gain weight, we usually just prescribing progesterone to help balance everything is usually good enough. And then in full blown menopause, what happens is no estradiol, no, very little testosterone, very little progesterone. It's like everything goes away and everything is gone. So that's the time where we it's kind of a beautiful time because we can actually prescribe hormones and they'll stay the same across the month instead of like this. And so it's kind of a great time. I always tell people, like, don't fear menopause. It is beautiful. You will love it because we can give a little bit of testosterone, a little bit of estradiol. The estradiol is important because the estradiol protects our bones. When we don't have estrogen, we can experience severe osteoporosis, and that's why little old ladies break their hips because their estradiol's gone. And the progesterone is a really good balancer. It helps you sleep. It's your happy hormone. But for women, again, it's challenging because each of us are very unique, and it's not as easy as, here, take this shot once a week and message me if you have questions. No, it is intense. It's intense. And I'm finding that more women in menopause do better with like semaglutides or tirzepatides that balance blood sugar levels. And they're actually able to manage their weight that way with just very microdosing of these semaglutide or tirzepatide, rather than getting too deep in playing with hormones, because we are just a rare breed. We really are. We're tough.
Well, and I think people probably had like a weird recognition when we're like, oh, semaglutides. They're like, I feel like I know that word. And you're like, yeah, that's the generic of Ozempic. When we're talking
Exactly.
about like everyone that's on any of these, GLP-1s, where
Yeah, they're great.
you're like, yeah, that's what we're seeing everywhere right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're wonderful. I think it's one of the greatest things for women with autoimmune disorders or women in menopause, because it just really helps balance a lot, and it decreases inflammation. And I'm finding better results with that for my female patients before I throw hormones at them. And then we can get there, we can work into that. But they get really mad. And I did too. When I first started testosterone and I gained weight, I was mad. I didn't want to gain weight. And so we can work into that and then just see where, we go. And women in their 50s, yeah, we're not as horny as women in their 40s. Women in our 50s, it's really weird. Like, something happens and then all of a sudden you're like, I don't care if I never have sex again. This is wonderful to live alone. And so that sucks if you're in a relationship, because that doesn't work. So that's when we want to be like giving them their mojo back, giving them a little testosterone, because otherwise we're just like, I'm good. Give me my cat and I'm good. Call me Karen.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds much easier where you're like, yeah, any guy that walks into the office,
Oh yeah.
testosterone, HCG, get out of my office. Like, we're all done.
We're done. But it kind of patterns our lives too. Like, women through the month, our hormones, and that's why we get called all the names and, oh, she's, this and she's that. But it's crazy to be able to create a human being and to be able to go through all the things that we do as women. Our hormones are constantly shifting. It affects us. And so for men, they start to recognize it, but in a different way when your hormones start to drop. Yours is a little bit more of a slow progression, but it's a slow, persistent progression, whereas ours is just like this. So we really do. And I think when couples actually understand this, I think back to, wow, what if I had understood this in my marriage? What if we had this understanding together, where when I'm super horny in my 40s and he doesn't care, and I think he's not into me and doesn't want anything to do with me, when I'm finally done having babies and feeling super horny and he doesn't give me the time of day, wow, maybe this didn't have everything to do with me and my marriage being as crappy as it was. Maybe if we had been educated together and even known about this, we could have worked through some of those things. And what if that testosterone had been replaced for him? So this is why I'm so passionate about it. I think it can save relationships. And I think when we have an understanding as men and women in these relationships, or same, partners in a relationship, then it makes sense. It makes sense. And we're a lot more patient with each other.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like a simple graph really, like,
Right.
any young person could grasp.
You're
Because you're like,
right.
all right, men, here's yours. It looks like a bad stock market just heading straight down.
Exactly.
We give a shot here. Now you see it go back up. Good? We're all good? Okay.
Exactly.
Women. Okay, here's your chart. And you'll
Where do we
notice
begin?
it's a little erratic. Like the
So,
first one's 28 days, but the second one's 40, and we're not 100% sure
right,
why, but we've got to hit it like just when it hits the bottom and the top. So
right.
we're gonna do some guess. You'd be like,
Yeah.
even kids would be like, "Oh, wow."
I think, yeah, that is hilarious. But I think the fact that men are recognizing and understanding their lower testosterone earlier in life, I think you guys are shedding light on it and understanding it more and understanding women more and understanding, wow, it really does impact us. Because back in my day, the only guys that really felt that way were guys in their 50s, and they're old anyway. Like those guys, yeah, of course he's fat, he's old. But for young men to be experiencing it and going, what is going on here? I certainly look younger than my dad did back in the day, but I feel like he did when I saw him on his sofa. So I think it's that awareness of these hormones declining, and then the awareness of, wow, is that what's happening to her like every month? Is this what she's going through? So it's that awareness and the compassion that can exist in relationships, in just that understanding, for sure.
Yeah. Well, every guy that says like, "Wow, I was really grumpy when my hormones were off," and his girlfriend
Right.
just slowly turns to look at him
Right.
skeptically, like, "Yeah, crazy, huh?"
Yeah, for sure.
So, as we're seeing, like, testosterone is now becoming much more accessible and available. Like,
Mhm.
even with yours, where you're like, you don't need your insurance, you don't
Right.
need to have like all these specialty labs. Like, we do all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to see like semaglutides doing the same thing? Because I know they're more popular, but it still seems like the things I've heard is inaccessible and expensive.
Yeah, same thing through the compounding pharmacies. The compounding pharmacies that do the testosterone, they also do the semaglutide and the tirzepatide. And so, we need to be able to show that a patient needs them. But I mean, again, do we need testosterone? No. I have a breast augment or two breast augmentations. Did I need it? No. Did I get it? Did my plastic cosmetic surgeon give it to me 20 years ago because I wanted it and I was willing to pay for it? Yeah. It completely medically unnecessary. And anyone who's had liposuction or anyone who's had this or that to make themselves look better, is it necessary? No. But cosmetic surgeons never get called before the boards because people are willing to put their life on the line to look better. And they're not in trouble because they don't use insurance, and because they bypass that, they're not all in jail, and none of them have board investigations over the mere fact that a patient wants it. And so really, that is my argument with testosterone and semaglutides. The patient has been given all of the risks associated. The patient understands that he or she will be monitored. The patient understands that these labs will be drawn, they'll be explained to them. This patient has the right to choose for themselves what they want, and they're willing to pay. And so for me, that's my argument. I feel like, look, I if you're gonna tell me I can't prescribe, then you got to go out there and tell every cosmetic surgeon that's given everybody boobs they got to stop because they're not safe. That's my argument.
Well, and it's a quality of life thing, right?
It
Because you're
sure
like,
is.
a lot of
Yeah.
these people, like, you're miserable. Like, if you're miserable and your quality of life's really low, like,
Right.
I don't know that I would call it cosmetic anymore. Like, is it medically necessary for you to stay alive? No.
Right.
But like the difference between surviving and actually living is
And
that's a huge gap, just like the testosterone
huge.
acceptable range is a huge gap.
Exactly. Very good point. And it's true with these semaglutides and the tirzepatide that I utilize for my menopausal patients, their lives improve dramatically. The first thing that's lost is the belly fat. That's the thing that I have so many female patients say, my stomach sticks out further than my boobs now. I can't do this. And I mean, I've been there. I was there a year ago where it's like, what? I've always been in shape. I never weighed this much when I was giving birth to 6 babies, never. And it happens. And so by introducing these, it doesn't mean that the patient will need to be on it the rest of their lives. But I have heard more female patients say, and I've seen the evidence that for us, typically the tirzepatide semaglutide will help manage our hormones. Throw in a little testosterone if you want the libido there, and you're golden. We're golden. Why not? And just like you said, it's not even a looks thing. It's a, gosh, I want to feel good thing. And I don't want to feel like I'm in the depths of despair all the time. Rather than prescribing an antidepressant to somebody, the testosterone, a naturally occurring substance in the body that was in full force in youth, let's replace it. And usually it's a feel good thing, not a, I want to look amazing. It's, I want to feel good. I don't want to sit on my couch all day and wish I wasn't here.
Well, and what do we tell people when we like prescribe antidepressants? We say like you need to eat right and exercise because those
Yes.
things help your body perk up. Like,
Yeah.
okay, well, testosterone's going to do the same thing. And if you work
Sure.
out, it benefits that exercise. The
Yeah.
loss of belly fat is like inconsequential. You're like, oh, it's nice, but
Yeah.
it wasn't the goal. Like the
Right.
same thing, treating your depression. Losing weight's not the goal, but if you did follow the orders and
Yep.
eat better and exercise better, like you
It
would
would
lose
happen.
weight just as
Right.
a side effect.
Exactly. Exactly.
So are we seeing much semaglutide use in men? Because I mean, outside of like its original usage, because it sounds like we can do the same thing with just testosterone. So do we use the other one at all?
I have, but not very often. I find that, and this is usually for me, this is usually how I start. For men, I start hormones. That's where I start. And if they want to drop weight and they want to do the semaglutides, I rarely have it happen, but we can go there. For my female patients, I start tirzepatide semaglutides. And then if we need to do the hormones, we do. If I do it the other way around, I have very unhappy patients. And I find that the symptoms are not resolved as quickly. If I were to start a semaglutide with a man who really, really needs testosterone, because like we were saying, testosterone for men, I give 200 a week. For women, it's usually 10. It's a flippy floppy. And so the men are going to do a lot better if their testosterone, their main hormone is replaced for sure. We've got 3 of them that can all be played with, but that tirzepatide semaglutide just seems to reset us and make the inflammation go down, and we do feel better. So yeah, that's the way I usually approach it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're like the easily graphable differences between the genders right there.
Right. And I will always give the patient the choice. It's always the patient's choice. I will share my experiences, and I don't say, well, I'm not going to do that. This is what I like to do. I give them what I have seen, and then we can change it at any time too. The patient is in the driver's seat. It is their body, it is their life. And if they understand all of the risks associated, they have the right to choose for themselves, not some claims manager telling them what they're going to do. And it feels really good as a patient to be in the driver's seat and not have a provider or an insurance company tell you what you're going to do, to be given the education and the information. And then if you change your mind and say, let's stop this semaglutide, I want to try the hormones. Okay, let's give that a try, see how that works. But to have someone who's right along with you, just like you would a coach in anything else, a business coach, a coach at the gym, someone that does what I do. And there are a lot of us, just to be there and allow the patient to make the decisions that are best for themselves.
Yeah. God forbid we have patient advocacy anymore, right?
Right.
God. I have seen some really horror stories out there where they're
Oh, yeah.
like, I was with this, like holistic approach doctor, and I'd been prescribed Adderall when I was younger, and I went through 5 years of never getting it with this doctor as we tried
Yeah.
all these other medications. They're
Yeah.
like, I switched doctors, and the next one was just like, oh, you took it before? Great, let's start again because it worked.
Exactly.
Like, Why are we stopping things that worked?
Yeah, exactly. And, and we get to choose our providers. We get to decide for ourselves. If we don't feel listened to and we don't feel heard, we should move on to the next. Just like we're not going to marry the first person we go on a date with. Hey, if we're not liking what we see, we move on. And we should do that with our providers too. If our providers ideas on hormone replacement do not coincide with ours and it's something we really want to do, we should find one who doesn't tell us that our insurance won't cover it and that they don't feel comfortable with it. Because if they don't feel comfortable with it, we shouldn't be with them if it's something we want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know an hour goes by quick and I've already burned
Oh,
time with you,
oh
but
wow.
I know, right? It's so fast. Are there any other like major myths we didn't touch on where we're like, this comes up a lot, or people ask you this question and you're like, oh, no.
Yeah. I think the only thing that didn't come up was the anger, the rage,
Oh,
the
yes.
the roid rage. So that is not something that any of my patients have ever said occurs because again, we're not abusing it. We're not abusing it. And so I think that there are a lot of women, and again, in relationships, I'll have women that will come into my office and say, you ruined my husband. He wants sex all the time. I don't want anything to do with him. And I'm like, I'm sorry I ruined your husband, but is this how he was when he was 20? Yeah, that's how he was. And then we start talking about, well, do you want to be there again? How do you feel? And do you want yours replaced? But I never have a woman come in and say, you made him a roid rager. Nope, never happens. Because when you're doing it the right way, that is not something we have to be worried about. If it were to occur on my dime with the patient, I would be drawing some labs and I would be questioning whether he's really taking the amount I ordered him. And if he's running out too early and dropping bottles and stuff like that, then I would start to put two and two together and say, I don't think we can work together anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, is that just like a side effect of like, because your system is so suppressed, right? All of these levels
Right.
are too low that you kind of become a little more emotional when you get like a higher level back? Is that
Um,
why?
I wouldn't say I wouldn't I see the emotional part of it come in if their estradiol levels start climbing. And that's and if someone's taking too much testosterone and it's spilling over and converting into estradiol, that's what's going to make a man super emotional. Like I have a man that said, I knew my estrogen was too high when I hit a deer on the way home from hunting and started crying. Love that example because he's like, I know my estrogen's too high and I thought that is funny. That's actually funny. So, yeah, I wouldn't say that with the replacement of testosterone that the initial is, but just that spike in it when you haven't had it for so long, just feeling amazing. But as far as the rage aspect of it, that's when it's being abused. And the emotional aspect of it, it's when it's not being monitored correctly or someone is taking more than, and it's converting. So, yeah, I mean, I know we could talk about this all day.
All
We
day.
could. It's
Well,
incredible.
and it seems like that's the easy advice is you're like, look, as a gym bro, like you're
Yeah.
mostly just injecting estradiol because like
Right.
so much of yours is going unconverted. So you're like,
Exactly.
you could lower your dosage, save
Yes.
yourself some money and hassle,
Yes.
and be getting better results.
Exactly. Spot on. Spot on. That is exactly and then typically the gym bros are mixing everything else in there too, which is just a devastating thought. I mean, honestly, I don't know how these people, and they do, a lot of them do drop dead early, 30s, 40s, they drop dead early. And there is good reason for that. It's quite frightening, but yeah,
Yeah. Well, Susie, this has been amazing. I
it's so fun.
loved this. I want to make sure people can find you if they're looking for more from you.
Thank you. My website is getwellwithsusiebell.com. So
I
yeah,
love it. And you also wrote a book, so let's plug the
I
book while we're here.
did. Thank you. It's called A Piece of Me, Finding My Voice After Mormonism, Marriage, Medicine, and Men. It should be really fun.
Nice. Very good. No, I will put the links to all that in the show
Thank
notes.
you.
If anyone goes and picks up the book, please leave good reviews for it. That's all I
Oh,
ever ask when we like, you found
thank
a book, you really enjoyed this person, like leave a good review, please.
oh, thank you so much. Colton, I have had a blast.
Of
Thank
course.
you.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time immensely.
Yeah, you too. And be safe in your travels.
As mentioned in the interview, I do know many young men with low testosterone levels, and that includes myself. Before my father passed away, he and I compared our levels to find that we were almost identical, despite being 25 years separated. So don't be afraid to go and get help yourself. In ranking news, May wrapped up while we were on tour. Number 1, the United States, with California, Wisconsin, and Oregon at the top. Sorry, Ohio. Number 2, England, the United Kingdom. Number 3, Australia, with Queensland well over New South Wales. Number 4, Canada, with Ontario just barely beating British Columbia. And number 5, South Africa, just beating Ireland. That's it for this week. Have a great week, a great weekend, and I'll see you all back here next week for another new episode. Until the next episode, pretty please do all those things that help the show grow, like rating, reviewing, liking, and subscribing. Also remember, you can reach out to dumbenoughpodcast@gmail.com or on any of the social medias if you'd like to reach me personally. But most importantly, stay dumb.